GM, welcome to Web3 Academy, a place for entrepreneurs, businesses, and creators to explore and learn how to use Web3 to transform business models and build thriving communities. I'm Jay Bird, and this is Kyle Reedhead, and we're here to keep you on the forefront of technology so you don't fall behind. Kai, what's up, my man? Give us the TLDR on today's episode.
Yeah, we had Nilesh and Joonatan on the podcast, who are builders in building apps on top of Lens protocol. Jay will give a bit of a background of each of them in a second, but we talked about why Web3 social media is needed, the features that blockchains unlock in the social media world that you just can't do with Web2. We talked about the business models of social media in Web3. Last time we had Brad on from Lens Protocol. They didn't even know what the business model was of Lens. So we are getting to the bottom of that today. And finally, the experience of building and growing in the Lens ecosystem. Super exciting episode. And I learned a lot. So I don't know. It was great for me. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, I learned a ton too. And that comes from really two great builders, but two people who they're serial entrepreneurs, their experience. And you're going to hear about their experience in the episode. Joonatan, over a decade of Web2 advertising sales, worked at Google, and then worked for an ad tech company that serviced Facebook and grew to one of the largest ad tech companies. Nilesh, currently the CEO of Orb. Before that, 2 times co-founder of Blink, which was a dating app, and then co-founder of Dwell Food, which was a subscription-based home food delivery app. So tons of experience coming from our guest today. But before we get into the show, we just need to take a moment to hear a word from our sponsor.
The future of social media is here, and that future lives in Web3 on top of Lens protocol. Web2 social platforms are broken and ripe for disruption. You see, the epicenter of social media is the creators, and yet they are the most neglected. Web2 platforms like Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram are all essentially robbing creators of their worth. Creators are a new type of entrepreneur, forming new types of businesses. Yet with Web2 platforms, creators don't own their content or their profiles, and that's their product and business. Instead, they are tied to the platforms they choose to create on. Well, just like how crypto is freeing us from banks, Web3 is freeing us from these centralized platforms. On Lens Protocol, creators own their content, own their profile, and even their social graph and followers in the form of NFTs. This allows you to move freely from one social application to another with your content, profile, and followers moving along with you. Lens Protocol enables self-sovereignty for your social graph and interoperability across the internet. At Web3 Academy, we believe this is the future of social, and that's why we partner with Lens to ensure that the path of social media is heading in the right direction. Visit lens.xyz to learn more today.
Nilesh, Joonatan, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
We are so excited to dive into Orb and Phaver and so much. But before we get there, and Lens and just a really exciting show we got planned for today. But before we get there, I gave a brief intro for both of you already, but I want to give you guys a chance to tell your stories. Joonatan, let's start with you. Can you just give us an idea of your background, sort of pre-Web3, and then take us up to you sort of when you first dove down the rabbit hole and how that happened, and maybe up to not necessarily today, but when you started building in Web3.
Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, kind of my background after business school, I graduated from Aalto here in Finland, and then moved to Dublin to work for Google for a couple of years in their large customer sales team back when kind of Google Plus was all the rage, at least according to the Google employees who were the only users. We tried hard, but it was an interesting experiment kind of seeing a social network, even with a huge backing, kind of being built up and also failing quite quickly. Obviously also YouTube was kind of a big part of our portfolio, so kind of got to work with the social products there besides just AdWords. But then I'm not a corporate guy, so I wanted to do something in a smaller company where there's actual impact. So I joined Smartly.io, which is this at that point 3-person company building Facebook advertising tech, and we actually grew that to be the global market leader in Facebook and Instagram ads. So like billions of ad budgets going through it annually. I was based in New York for the latter 3 years of the 5 there. So got to work with all the biggest Facebook advertisers, Spotify, Airbnb, eBay, and all the likes, and kind of really seeing how the sausage is made. on that front, which was kind of the segue then to deciding that we need to build something that allows people to actually connect with each other in a way that they're not being like spied upon and monetized directly. Like there's moments when you really feel uncomfortable about it, when Facebook tells you that they can actually tell Best Buy whether you went to their store or not because they track your GPS on your phone. And then I'm the one trying to sell that to everyone. So kind of then we decided that, okay, there has to be a better way to make this work, and started kind of tinkling around in various ways. That was already almost 3 years ago. So we initially built a bit more of a Web2 version, trying to help creators monetize through like recommending genuine products. Turns out they're all too used to recommending everything they can just to get by. It didn't really work out, but then realized actually Web3 is a much bigger opportunity. So started kind of focusing on that side of things. Name Phaver originally comes from kind of sharing all of your favorite things, which is still a big part of what we're building. So kind of helping people also pick their favorite posts every day and trying to that way kind of promote the high quality content.
Very interesting. Okay, I want to ask some follow-up questions, but first I want to give Nilesh a chance to tell his story. So Nilesh, same question. Give us a little bit of your background, and then what first got you into crypto, Web3? What first got you into the space?
Yeah, sure. So I have completed my graduation in 2016 back in India. And after that, I have joined one job over there, and I started as a mobile application developer. So I started from like right now I'm developing mobile application from last 6 years. I did couple of jobs over there, but after my first job, just 1.5 years, I left my job and started my own startup. So it was subscription based food tech startup. We did like for 1.5 year. After that, things did not work out, and we shut down that startup. Then I did couple of jobs in India where in one startup I was the first employee, and like we set up whole tech team and developed product from the scratch. So kind of my interest for developing product started from my own startup, first startup. Then I decided to come in the US. So like 1 year before, I just came to US and did my one more startup, which was IRL dating application. It did not work out. So like 6 months ago, we started Orb. But I have been exploring overall blockchain technology from last 3 years, and really fascinated about how blockchain itself works. And always wanted to work into the same field, but always was into only the Web2. And like 1 year before, I really started to go into the blockchain development. Started smart contract development and all this thing. And like 6 to 7 months ago, we started Orb, and yeah, that's it.
It's so interesting how both of you have started multiple businesses, and both of you have had wins and failures, and we often learn the most from our failures, which sort of to me is a little bit of a signal. And here you both are building Web3, right? So clearly there's something that's directing both of you in that direction. I want to jump into that, but before I do, I just want to give each of you a chance to give the elevator pitch for Phaver and for Orb. So you both mentioned the projects that you're working on currently and that you're building. Let's just get the elevator pitch for each without going like too deep. We'll get into the deep parts of each, but Nilesh, I'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So we are building Orb. Orb is decentralized social media, first thing. The second thing is our goal is to make Orb as a go-to platform to in future search any kind of Web3 working professionals or Web3 opportunities. So this is what we are trying to build.
Perfect.
Is it like the LinkedIn of Web3? Is that the best way to describe it?
No. So so whenever like I pitch as like this is the question, like it's LinkedIn for Web3. So, but basically, the core idea is same, but or I can pitch it like it 10x LinkedIn, because we are trying to build much powerful what LinkedIn today is, and as we are building on the blockchain, so inherently we are leveraging all the blockchain technologies. Definitely, I can deep dive in like further, but yeah.
We will dive into that for sure.
Yeah. Jonathan, go ahead. Give us the elevator pitch on Phaver.
Yeah, so kind of Phaver is the first mobile app published on Lens. We were live about 30 minutes after Stani announced the mainnet launch back in May, because we had been kind of building the app a bit already before. And then we met with some of the Lens team in Slush last year, this big tech conference in Finland, and realized that they're actually building something that really matches what we need. So kind of building that interoperable backend, I think, is a huge part of Web3 social, where you can actually take your data with you. Otherwise, if it's an NFT that only works in one place, it's not an actual NFT. There's kind of no value to it. So that's obviously the core part of Lens. And then what we're building on top of that is a token economy, where we're trying to kind of build that more ethical way of monetizing. So the brands can actually be part of it by buying tokens to promote their messages, but we won't be telling them where you shopped last night or what's your credit card information like Facebook does. But rather we're focusing on the topics that you're posting into. So if you're a sneaker fan, you're following a sneaker topic, Nike wants to do a sneaker drop, they'll just promote content in the sneaker topic and they don't have to know anything more about you. And at the same time, since they're using tokens for that promotion, they will actually reward the creators who have been receiving tokens for the high quality content. That's at least the goal. So token will be launched probably Q1, but that will be the big thing if we're able to really kind of share the benefits with the people who are creating the value.
It appears to me like your product is almost starting a new category, this concept of share to earn. Can you tell us a little bit about share to earn and what that means?
Yeah. Recently, we've been thinking, is that actually a good term or not? Because the play to earn is a lot of trouble, where essentially like there's a bit too much of a Ponzi-nomics mechanism to a lot of it, where really kind of you're only making money if somebody else loses. But we believe that the big difference in social is that it's not a zero-sum game. So I make an amazing video, other people enjoy it, and they stake the post on Phaver because they like it. And kind of that helps other people discover it without having to go through a lot of content. And that way there's kind of value being created both by me selecting that as one of the favorites, as well as the production of the thing. So it's not that somebody loses, it's somebody creates value and somebody receives kind of token value back. So it's actually, I think, a massive opportunity to create tokens in that sense. Also, of course, kickstarting the whole platform, like the experience sucks if you're one of the first 500 people in a social media, but if you're one of the first 500 people in a token project, that's going to be probably a lot of money for you at one point if everything goes well. So they kind of balance each other out pretty nicely.
First of all, I don't think you're ever going to get a terminology right in Web3. Everything gets torn apart. The word NFT, for some reason, which is just like a protocol standard, just gets crushed. People hate NFTs, and it doesn't make any sense why. So good luck on that. But I'm interested to hear, let's sort of zoom out a bit. Just tell me, especially we'll let you start, Jonathan, because you were in the Web2 world, especially in the social media Web2 world. Why do we need Web3 social media? You know, like, what's the problem in the Web2 world, in your opinion anyway, or what you've seen? And so like, talk about the problem of Web2, but also what does Web3 actually solve for us? Because I mean, on Lens, we have so many different apps. There's over 100 apps being built on there, all the different types of social platforms, which is all great. But really it's like, what's the point in it all? What does Web3 really do for us? What does it unlock or enable? If you can kind of walk us through your opinion on that, Jonathan, to start, and then we'll follow up with Nilesh.
Yeah, I think obviously there's a lot of cases where people try to shove Web3 everywhere, but I think in social, there's actually genuine solutions that can be had. One of them is Christina from Lens actually put it really well. We were in a panel a couple of weeks ago, and what she was saying is that just think of Facebook's revenue being 90 billion, and they have a 1 billion creator fund. They're keeping 89 billion of the value that the Instagram creators are creating, because nobody comes there for Instagram, they come there from the content. And that's kind of why we need a more ethical way of monetizing your content, so people don't have to start their own OnlyFans or promote toothpaste in a separate contract in order to make a living out of the professional work they're creating. And the other part, kind of the most tangible reminder of that you don't really own any of your social life online, is I got a call from my grandmother about a year ago, and she was super upset because she had accidentally changed her age to 12 on Facebook. Trying to appear younger, I guess. And what happened, she was kicked out of Facebook. She was kicked out of Instagram. 10 years of grandchildren's photos, 10 years of friendships, messages, conversations, just all wiped out because she made one wrong click and she didn't actually ever own any of that. So you don't really have to be an activist. You don't have to say anything controversial to be at risk of losing really your online social life. And then when you kind of, like you mentioned, everybody hates NFTs nowadays. But when you strip away all the hype, the NFT in the end is a way for you to certify ownership of an online asset. And what's the most valuable online asset for most people? It's not going to be a monkey picture. It's going to be actually their social life. So it's all the friends you've made online, all the discussions you've had. And if that can be an NFT, then NFTs start actually making sense for the masses.
Yeah, two great points there. I mean, think like, kind of balancing out the revenue model, right? Or distributing it amongst the creators who are the most important on social media. That's why we go there. And then to remove risk, right? That's basically what you're saying here. I mean, your grandmother, I think you said, lost her Facebook. I also lost mine. I was running a whole business on Facebook, and one day I woke up and it was just gone. Still don't even know why to this day, and it was 5 years ago. There's no one I can talk to. So I don't know that people realize how much risk is there. I think the third thing is, just the privacy side of things that people tend to complain about. But that risk is so big. And people who are not even content creators like your grandma, it's a big deal. Like if you lose all of your contacts, like I travel a lot. And so I speak with my family and my friends through Instagram mainly. And if I was to lose that, like I would lose a lot of personal conversations and personal connections. And that is very valuable outside of a business or something like that. So I'm glad you brought that one up. Now let's let you continue on if there's anything else you want to add or anything you're seeing as well.
Yeah, definitely. So the most basic point Joonatan already covered, like obviously owning the data, and so we have the ownership and we do not lose to anyone. The other things I want to cover is like the underlying technology of Web3 social media itself or blockchain itself. So kind of credibility is the one thing where if you go to any social media, it's hard to believe that who is spam profile or like if I go to Twitter or LinkedIn anywhere, I can put anything. For example, I work at Google. There is no verification or no credibility in that, right? So that's the one thing. And the another thing is in Web3, if there is a pseudo identity which is growing up, and people started using this pseudo identity. That means that they do not want to reveal anything about them, name, gender, or anything, geography details. So in future, it's gonna become more hard to how to believe anyone on the internet, random person, because now the problem was already there, spam and fake identities. Now it's on pseudo identities. How gonna it's believe it? So Web3 brings really good tech with it, where we can have the all kind of credential. So there are so many things are coming in the Web3 right now. So it's like proof of humanity, and the things we are building at Orb is like proof of credentials. So people can link their different kind of credential here, and with some mechanism we verify at the back end and directly show verification badge. What I mean by with the credential is like their history. For example, where they worked, where they got the education, and what skill they have. So if you are visiting anyone's profile and you know that their history, portfolio, all are verified, then it's already become now you can trust them. Exactly. And if you want to do business or want to do with anything, it's kind of already credibility is created, and you are not afraid to deal with any person.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting how, and Jonathan and Kai both talked about this, is we only think right now about Web3 in terms, I mean, shouldn't we say we only think, 4 of us think about it, but a lot of people think about it only in speculation and making money. And so then they think, oh, well, that's the only purpose of an NFT. But there's so much more application here. And whether it be an NFT or a DID or some form of verified identity or verified credentials, there's different layers that are being built out to create this, to solve the identity problem. But there is so much application to Web3 beyond the speculation that is talked about so much. And what I find so interesting is when we talk about social media, and as you mentioned, Jonathan, really like our social graph is like the most valuable thing to most people online. That is personal property, right? And so when we put that personal property back in the hands of the owners, it's not that all of a sudden they're going to go sell it, or that it's going to have like some monetary value. Like, my connection with my cousin or a post that I made with my cousin doesn't have value to somebody else. I can't go sell that unless maybe my cousin's famous, but he's not. So, but it has a lot of value to me, right? And knowing that is safe and protected and is mine, it's like I think this is just the way that humanity works. We build these incredible technologies. And so we built the internet, and it allowed so many things to happen. But because it wasn't immutable and because it wasn't secure in the way the blockchain was, we also allowed incredible spammers and scammers to come in and take advantage of the situation. And it's left us in a place where, I think about, I recently traveled, and I think about the way in which I had to prove my vaccination. Like, it was the most Web2 jokey way ever. Like, I could have photoshopped this PDF. Like, it was not real at all. Right? But that is our current form of verified credentials, right? So yeah, it's great to hear that, Nilesh, that you're going to help solve that problem.
Yeah. And really, I'm curious. It's kind of a great point also on, like, one of the reasons why there's so many scammers in Web3 right now is that we are operating on Web2 platforms. So there's somebody with the fake monkey picture in Telegram telling you need to transfer something. There's somebody who's fake influencer with 10,000 fake followers on Twitter trying to push you to go to a pump and dump scheme. And that's all because we're trying to do Web3 on a Web2 platform. Just like pretty much all of the DeFi folks who failed, there were people who were doing DeFi in a TradFi way. So they were hedge funds taking risks based on their personal appetite, instead of the actual protocols like Aave that kind of survived the crash because everything worked in a smart contract. So similarly, if we actually build kind of the chain-based credibility into our social apps, like Phaver now released NFT connections, so you can connect your Bored Ape and actually show that you have an ape instead of just putting a random JPEG. And that also allows kind of, for example, the ape holders to connect with each other in a natural way. So we have a gated topic for only ape holders. Nobody else is able to post there because we have on-chain verification for whether you have a real ape or not. And those kind of just unlock so many new things for that credibility of users. And also the interoperability. So we don't have to call Yuga and ask, can we actually help use Bored Apes here? But they're APIs, they're interoperable. We just have to check the smart contract. And we know, okay, this guy has an ape in the wallet. So it just unlocks so many possibilities for that credentializing as well. And I think Orb is doing something really cool there too.
Absolutely. I'm curious so we just rattled off a bunch of features that I guess the blockchain enables, right? In terms of verifying, in terms of distributing, the value, in terms of ownership and kind of removing the risk. Is there any other features we haven't touched upon yet that maybe Jay and I haven't thought about or that we haven't said yet? Nilesh, I know you said you're kind of the LinkedIn, but 10x better. I think you said, or 100x. I'm not sure what number you chose. Are there other features that we're missing that you think would be worth sharing, or does this kind of cover it so far?
Yeah. So right now, if we bring the verified credential, there are so many things which automatically brings. So just one example, if I take example of Orb, And here right now, how traditional industry work is, and how the whole hiring industry or job industry work is like, if you switch the job, right? If you are working at company A right now, and you go to the company B, now after doing everything, the company B verifies your they do the background verification, right? And the overall right now, the background verification industry is too large. So it's like more than multi-billion industry right now. And it's also, there is so many problems in the background verification. For example, the last company you have worked right now, they are not operating, and so many other things. And here is like, you don't even have to do it. So you at company A, if you are holding some kind of credential over there, and you go to company B, and you definitely work there. There is no need for background verification and anything. So this kind of things in real life it solves. So it's not like only just talking how those credentials or those blockchain underlying technology, how those technology solving the problem in the real life.
It makes things more efficient, I guess, because you can just automatically verify and automatically credentialize and things like that. So I'm curious, you're both building a technology, right? You're both building a business around that. I'm sure you thought long and hard about where you wanted to build this, or maybe it was Lens being launched that said, oh, actually, this is my idea I want to build. But I'm going to assume you guys have been thinking about social media for a long time and had this as an idea before that. But you guys both chose to build on Lens, which is on Polygon. And so that's the blockchain you're building on. Lens is kind of the social graph of the ecosystem that you're sort of tapping into and building on top of. What made you guys choose that route and that sort of tech stack? And did you consider any others? Or, what was that process like? We'll let Joonatan, if you want to take this to start.
Yeah. So I think, as I briefly mentioned as well, like we were on the lookout for sort of an interoperable protocol, because we truly believe that kind of we could create our own NFTs in the background, but they're not really worth anything. Because then if we block your access to Phaver, we've given you a key, but we just changed the locks. So it's worth nothing anymore. So the only way for that social profile to be worth something is if it's interoperable. So that's where Lens is the first one we found that actually did it from like a user perspective. A lot of the previous ones were like, hey, here's the DSO chain, you can build anything on it, but they're all kind of walled gardens. And we shouldn't build Web3 in a way we build Web2, where it's walled gardens that don't talk to each other. So I think that's where kind of Lens is really the only natural choice to start with, to do that kind of like shared social graph. Polygon obviously is a choice of theirs, so not much that we can consider on that front. So far it's been going well, so at least better than Solana, so have to be happy with the stability right now. So could be worse for sure. In any case, kind of it's early days. And then we're looking at some others as well, like we're in talks with CyberConnect, etc. Like how can you actually integrate more of your Web3 presence into your Phaver profiles? The long-term vision is to kind of be a nexus between all of your Web3 identities, as we don't want to get back to the same point where you have to go check your LinkedIn feed, your Twitter feed, your Instagram feed, your Facebook feed, and 20 others, because they're all walled gardens. But if everything is permissionless and interoperable, you just need one feed where you can check kind of all of the stuff. And then it might be job related coming from one place. It might be fun coming from another place. But if it's permissionless, we can actually kind of integrate them all into a one feed.
So are you saying that there's a way that Phaver could be like built on top of multiple blockchains or multiple like social graphs? Like if there's another Lens protocol built on, I don't know, a layer 2 like Arbitrum or something, you could also build on top of that, and somehow that would be interoperable between Lens and whatever the other one is?
Yeah, I think kind of like if you like, I'm not a developer, so I don't overcomplicate things, but like not everything has to be on chain. So we don't have to think that much about bridging and all that, but really kind of your Phaver profile right now is a Web2 profile. It lives on Google Cloud, and it's kind of got all the perks of being an easy Web2 profile. But then what makes it Web3 is you can connect it to your Lens profile, you can connect it to your Bored Apes, you can connect it to your CyberConnect Web3 or some other setups. And then kind of all of those become interoperable. So when I make a post, I could in the future elect that this is going on a DSO platform, plus on Lens, plus somewhere else. If somebody follows me, they can actually follow me on 3 like blockchains at the same time. And I think the interoperability, it can all be kind of from a user perspective, kind of unified into one place.
Got one more question, Jonathan, just before we move over to Nilesh. You mentioned that you were already building Phaver. It sounded like before you knew about Lens. I'm just curious, did you also think about building your own interoperable standards at any point, or has there been discussions around that?
At that point, we were thinking like, we'll just start with a token ecosystem and kind of solve the reward part first, and then kind of leave this sort of like option for connecting it to a protocol once somebody figures it out. And then kind of then kept developing, and we realized that, okay, they're actually doing exactly what we need to be part of this, and kind of provide that first like genuine ownership part of the building blocks.
You must have been so stoked when you first heard about Lens.
Way to go, Stani and team.
Yeah, it was a random interaction. We went to get some Aave swag from their booth in the like event in Finland, and then went to Rathore in the evening, and then realized like, okay, these guys are pretty cool, and they're building something cool, apparently also for Web3 social. So let's see what it becomes. And then one day in the year, it kind of released, and like, okay, so this is actually exactly what we're looking for.
I also got onto Lens via their swag at a conference. So marketing tip right here for anyone, make some good swag, because Aave and Lens have the best swag.
And attend hackathons and conferences and get the swag.
Yeah, be there early, because it's taken the moment everybody's queuing up for it in the morning, then it's taken like first day halfway through.
Pro tip, get your Lens or your Aave swag before you get your coffee at conferences. That's the way it should work. Nilesh, interested to hear if you have anything to add in terms of just why you chose Lens. Did you consider anything else, and what helped you kind of guide that decision?
Yeah. So initially we have like overall idea of what we have to build, but I was exploring many things and did not find anything. So we started, even though when Lens did not launch, we even started, our own. So we thought like, let's build, start with Web 2. So kind of build something our own. And so we started building our backend, and we have built some of the functionalities over there. Then one day I was searching and exploring the Twitter and heard about Lens launch. So I thought, let's check it out, what's there. And then I went to website and went to the whole developer documents, how things are working. And I was about to go to bed at the night, and then just open this website, and it's like, for next 6 hours I'm just exploring how things are working. And it was really amazing to see, like, whatever we were trying to build is like, I mean, the social graphs and things was already there. I mean, the underlying architecture was already there. So I thought that what we are trying to build, it Lens fit completely, in that. So let's build on top of this, so we don't have to build our own things, and then don't have to move from Web 2 to Web 2.0 and Web 3 like that. So we decided to build on top of that. We scrap our own whatever we have built till now, and it's give us speed as well, because like every architecture was already there. So we already have to build the interface first, and then top of that our smart contract and all the things. So at that point it become natural choice to build on Lens.
One of the things that's very interesting, I think another big feature, not necessarily that blockchain unlocks, although somewhat, but it's more just the open source concept of us, is the composability, right? So both of you were like, well, we started building this app, and you don't need to build a blockchain. Polygon's got that covered. You don't need to build the social graph. Lens has that covered. And then just today, I was preparing for our news roll-up we have at the end of the week, and there was 3 announcements today on Twitter from Stani, and Lens has integrated in with push, I think it's called push protocol. So now they have notifications, which notify the users if they get a comment or a mirror, whatever. So that's another feature you don't have to build. You can just integrate in. They just integrated with ENS. So now they can like anything that ENS plugs into, it'll show your lens handle, your lens photo, etc. And then the other one is I think Lensport, which is a marketplace for the NFTs specifically in the Lens ecosystem. So these are 3 different features, I guess, technically that neither of you have to build because there's just others already doing it. Can you just sort of speak to that and what that experience has been like of just this kind of composability? Because that to me is super interesting and also super valuable.
Yeah,
Jonathan, we'll let you start.
Sure. Yeah. So kind of so far we've been a bit kind of like pick and choosing from the functionalities of Lens, mostly because like we're trying to build everything kind of UX first. So that's why we built sort of a native Web 2 app first, and then we're kind of block by block integrating Web 3 stack there. So we actually were the first ones to have the dispatcher in place kind of from the get-go, which meant you didn't have to sign all of your transactions. Because I'm again for the 4th time this year locked out of my MetaMask on mobile because it refuses to reroute me from any mobile app to MetaMask, and things on mobile are just terrible when it comes to kind of wallet UX. And then it's kind of out of your hands. So if MetaMask is being stuck, then you can't really fix it yourself. So we're trying to do it in a way where you can actually even go on a desktop and connect once with your ledger, and then your mobile app works independently. But that's kind of why we haven't implemented all of the features like paid collects and things like that yet. But it's definitely been kind of making things so much easier, also from like a user growth perspective. So obviously a lot of people want to get a Lens whitelist. So we've been able to help them, and then we kind of pick the best users and give them whitelists. And also kind of get a lot of content from Lenster and from Orb and LensTube, etc. That also flows in real time into our kind of interface. So not only is it giving you the tech, it's also giving you the network effect of a social platform. And even if you're starting, like there's 70,000, I guess, profiles on Lens right now. So when you integrate with Lens, your app has 70,000 profiles the first day. And that's a pretty good starting point instead of going there and figuring out your alone. Then you just have to kind of expand your own footprint there and find your own niche. But it's really kind of providing a lot of things that like typically, let's say, building on a chain alone wouldn't.
Amazing. Nilesh, you want to add to that?
Yeah, so just taking one more example right now here. So for example, the next thing is in the social media is one-to-one chat. And the good thing is like now we don't have to build it individually. The Lens team is kind of already working on this. So right now we just have to focus on what we are trying to solve the problem, and underlying architecture we can just use it. So that's pretty good thing.
And does Lens involve you as a builder in the architecture that they are building? Are they coming to you and saying, hey, what can we build for you guys? Or maybe on the opposite end, are they educating you on, hey, we just built this, maybe you should go out and consider using it?
So the really good thing is like they have created groups on Telegram. So all the builders, Joonatan, me, and all the builders are already there. And whatever things they are trying to build, they just ping their this is what we are trying to build. And also they often take the opinions like what's the problem you are having, and also so it's kind of discussion and brainstorming all together. So that's really.
Isn't it wild? Like imagine being in I guess it wouldn't have been Telegram. It would have been, I don't even know what it would have been, whatever the original text chat group was, like back when
MSN,
like Zuckerberg
ICQ?
was building like Facebook, it's such a different way of building. I mean, composable is really the word that we didn't really see before. All of a sudden, I always think about how much fun it is to like go into a DAO, and I know it's different, separate business model, but like it's so fun now. You don't have to interview; you could just like pop into somebody's Discord and see exactly how they're running things, and you could show up to one of their weekly meetings, and you're like in their company. It's wild. This is this open source way of building that we haven't really seen decades, it's very different. Joonatan, anything to add about what it's like building with Lens, and do they involve you in their architecture?
Yeah, we've been, of course, kind of we've had our own chat also with them from the early days onwards, and kind of working a lot of, especially kind of like since Lenster, that's kind of like the main app that they've been developing for, since it's very easy to kind of integrate new features in a browser version. So you can kind of test everything on a day's notice, and Yogi is super responsive, the guy behind the Lenster development. So it's scary sometimes. You see that, okay, in 12 hours we'll have this live, and we're like, okay, so how do we get this? But at the same time, like, we have to, as I mentioned, since we're building kind of UX first and mobile experience first, we need to kind of pick and choose a bit on the feature side. But the team has been super helpful. So we've been talking a lot with Josh, who's one of the superstar developers on their side. And he's really helping us out, kind of figuring out how do we get that kind of like signatureless experience to the entire Lens flow, and kind of bit by bit getting to the point where you feel like you're using Twitter, but like it's actually working on chain in the backend side. But you don't, like, whenever you realize you're working on chain, something went wrong. So that should never be kind of the case. Every time you have to sign something, it's actually a negative.
Sure. I love your focus on UX. It's so great. It's amazing.
I'm curious on so continuing on with sort of working in the Lens ecosystem. One of the interesting things in Web3 is the way that we've been like funding projects. I mean, Ethereum has just been a darling at this, right? They just continue to give back and sort of build the next iteration of applications that are built on top of Ethereum, and keep sort of like reinvesting into the network, because this brings network effects. Joonatan, as you touched on. And Lens has kind of done this. So they thankfully were built by Stani and the crew that came from Aave. And so they already have a successful business, are well-funded. And so they could launch this Lens ecosystem and be a big part of funding that. And then also having the dev support to sort of like educate and support those these different applications. So I'm just curious, and you don't have to go into details if some of this you're not allowed to share, but do you guys get grants, or like, how does that all work in terms of if you want to go and build on Lens? What sort of support are you getting monetary wise or financially? And what's that been like? Joonatan, feel free to start here.
Yeah, so for us, kind of, we were lucky enough to already be venture funded when we started working on Lens. So we decided to kind of like let the folks who really need the grants to get them. On a hindsight, we probably should have taken some of that money. It makes life easier. But
cocky in a bull market, eh?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing fundraising this market for the last 6 months or so, and just realizing that actually the ticket sizes keep shrinking and shrinking. But kind of, yeah, we sort of decided against it, and maybe shouldn't have, but it's great that there is a grant system. And I think with that sort of open source mentality and the whole composability of things, it means that you can have like one industrious person who can really build an entire app based on kind of a grant. So that can kind of be a great way of sort of prototyping and getting there. Then obviously, if you find that fit, then it's gonna take a lot more money than a grant to kind of make it into a mainstream reality. But nobody yet knows what's going to be the best part of Web3 social. So just funding a lot of experimentation is going to be a great way to do it.
Nilesh, anything to add there?
Yeah, so like the Lens, we got the Lens grant. I mean, we still have to get in the wallet, but we got approved. In the first, they have like different batches. In the first batch, we were kind of late, so we were not there. And now after 3 to 4 months, they have second batch, and we got into it. And this is really good, basically for individual developers and who are trying to experiment things and build things. So getting grant and going and building it helps a lot. So from the day one, you don't have to worry about getting funds from the VCs and everything. Initially you can start from something, and if you see something, then you can decide and go to getting funding and everything. So grant really helps in the Web3 overall.
Absolutely. You kind of already answered this, Joonatan, but I gotta ask, because I was just wondering, so you guys are building on top of Lens. And when I think of social media, I think of all these applications that built on top of Twitter back in their early days, and then Twitter shut off their APIs. and completely screwed over all these businesses. Now, Web3 obviously is trying to prevent that. But I couldn't help but think going into this episode, I was like, well, I mean, they all kind of are building on Lens. They kind of are relying on Lens. I mean, for example, right now, Lens doesn't open up to anyone, right? They're kind of whitelist only, which I know you said 70,000, like as soon as you plug in, you already have that, which is amazing. But maybe they could have 1 million by now, you know? So like, maybe it's holding you back. Maybe they can rug you. And I'm not saying they will, of course they will not. I'm just curious though, have you thought about that? Yeah, fingers crossed. Have you thought about that? Is that a worry that you have? I'm sure a lot of people have it when they build on Facebook or on Twitter, but interested to hear your thoughts about that sort of relationship with Lens.
Yeah, it's a great point, and kind of the Web2 history is kind of like a history of backstabbing developers on pretty much all the fronts, as well as advertisers. So yeah, Twitter kind of shutting down their APIs and killing a lot of businesses, or then they clone your business and put it into their actual suite. And then on the other hand, like Facebook back in the day told everybody go and advertise so you can buy likes for your Facebook page, and then you get that reach because everybody follows your page. And then they rugged you completely and told you actually now you have to advertise in order for those people who you just advertised to get on your page to see your posts. And that's kind of what happens when you don't own any of that. And I think kind of like the cool part of like the smart contract based system is that it's way harder to rug people and kind of remove things out of there. And obviously, yes, it could be much bigger, but as I think we discussed before the episode, we've all probably seen what happens when you try to give people Lens whitelists. There's gonna be like tons and tons of spammers, scammers, squatters that are swarming in and trying to get their 10th Lens profile so they can sell it on OpenSea. So it's a tricky balance of trying to do it. We're now, for example, doing it with those automated NFT collections. So if you connect any NFT worth more than, let's say, 0.1 ETH, you're able to get a Lens whitelist as kind of part of that package deal, because we're trying to get those like really high quality people on board in some automated way instead of hand picking them like we've done so far. But yeah, it's obviously always like a hypothetical risk with any partner. But I think with interoperability, like if Lens starts rugging people, like us and Nilesh just team up and we fork Lens into a new protocol. Like we can, I think if that were to happen, since it's kind of open source code, then it would just mean that all the folks who relied on it, let's just like clone the contracts and do a better one. Which is, I think, a good way to, in a way, hedge the risks. Whereas with Twitter, because they own all the users, you can obviously copy paste Twitter source code, but that doesn't give you anything because you don't have any of the follow relationships, the content, the users. But here it would be kind of, at least to a certain extent, easier. Also, when people connect their wallets, you kind of have that data also on your side. So that's one of the reasons why, not saying that Lens is rugging us, but let's say Lens doesn't become successful, they decide to sunset in 2 years. And then we have a ton of people who don't have Lens anymore. So that's also why kind of your Phaver profile exists separately of Lens. And we actually have about 10 times more users on Phaver than we do on Lens inside our application, kind of on a day-to-day basis. So there's a lot of people who haven't yet been eligible to get a Lens profile, but through how we built it, they can actually follow Lens profiles on Phaver. They can see the Lens content on Phaver. They can upvote it and kind of be part of the discovery experience. They just can't post on the protocol yet. And that also brings us a bit of safety in the sense that, let's say somebody else takes over Lens as the most popular app, or Lens decides to break down, or let's say Polygon explodes is maybe the most likely scenario. That there's always kind of backups in the sense that at least a Web2 backup is still better than no backup.
Right. Wow, very interesting. Thank you for that. Just fun fact here, talking about the scammers with the whitelist. Web3 Academy is actually the most followed account on Lens with over 60,000, I think, followers.
Pretty much every Lens handle follows us.
But not even, because they're all basically, I don't know how many, but 99% of them are scammers trying to get a whitelist. We didn't whitelist them, obviously. So actually, most of them don't even have a Lens profile. It's just their wallet, but we didn't give them the whitelist, but for that exact reason. But very interesting. Nilesh, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. So like as Joonatan already mentioned, that the cool thing is like everything on GitHub repo. So you just fork it. If things are not working, you just fork it and you just build your own version of it. So it is really easy. So which were not possible in the past in the Web 2. So because all the code base were not open source or not public, so you did not know what's going behind it. Now it's really cool. Like just you fork it and whatever hell you want to do, just do it.
Devs are amazing. It's just like, hey, is there a lot of risk here? Like, just fork it. It's easy. Like, what? Would never have thought of that, but that's super, super cool.
Joonatan, you mentioned that you have more users who are not Lens holders than you do who are. Is that because the sign up and login is different for the non-Lens people? Can they do it without a wallet?
Yes, so kind of we elected with sort of the open way of like you can use even your Facebook login to log into Phaver if you want to and create your profile, or Google or email to kind of keep it very easy to get onboarded. And the long-term vision is to actually kind of automatically create wallets for new users when they create their Lens profile if they don't have a wallet. Because we're really kind of eyeing the next billion people here, and the next billion people will need somebody to handhold them. Again, my grandmother, if we actually want to get her the ownership of stuff, we're not going to tell her to go MetaMask first to write down 12 words. Like she's going to lose the password already. So that's just not a reality where mainstream is going to be onboarded. So that's kind of why we get that Web 2 onboarding experience. And then bit by bit, we're onboarding the high quality creators onto Lens. And now with more and more automation, kind of the other interesting project we're working with is called Click out of Singapore. They do these soulbound tokens based on your Web 2 history. So we're rolling out this week the first pilot where you actually get a Phaver Click SBT for your Twitter history. So we check whether you have genuine followers, whether you have an account that's a bit older than a few days, for example. As we saw that actually a huge amount of scammers have 20 Twitter accounts, 20 Discords, 20 Phaver accounts, and they all have like 10 bot followers. So it's really hard to figure out who are real. But with this sort of setup, we can actually at least a bit more carefully validate who has a genuine history in Web 2 and then help onboard them. So let's say you have 10,000 genuine followers on Twitter. We should roll out the red carpet. Let's get you handhold Lens onboarding and make sure you actually have service level that you should have on Twitter, but you don't. So you're just waiting to be rugged on Twitter, essentially. But then if you're one of those high quality creators, like we should be serving you better. And there's automated ways to authenticate that. So until Twitter again shuts down the APIs, that's why we're not building it ourselves. We rather rely on partners who are maybe less likely to be rugged. Because Twitter says it's a matter of time before Twitter removes our 50K followers, where they realize we're trying to kind of steal them from them.
Absolutely.
It's interesting to hear you talk about, because the one thing we haven't really dove into is how are we going to get to 1 billion users? And obviously there's a long way to go. We're very far away from there right now, but we're getting there quickly. And it's interesting to hear you mention your focus on creators. And I guess there is this, which chicken and egg, right? If you're the first user in a social media, it's kind of lame. There's not really anything to do. You can't really connect with anybody. But if you're also the first one there and there's no creators and you're not much of a creator yourself, then that's also sort of, so it brings up a question for me. Are you both focused on, do you think about that? Like, how are we going to get to 1 billion users? And do you think about what the strategies are to get there? Does Lens talk to you about what they're doing? Is there sort of like, if all 100 builders on Lens all work together, is that something that happens? I know Lens has a conference. Talk to us about how you guys are approaching that. How do we get to 1 billion users?
Yeah, I think there's obviously a lot of steps in between now and then. And I think the user experience is really, it's been the biggest blocker right now. So I spent one day, like 3 hours trying to buy something on OpenSea, just because I didn't realize that the difference between Matic and Wrapped Matic is that it's a different color currency symbol. And then when you kind of figure that one out and you realize you can't use your native Matic, you have to get some Wrapped Matic in order to be buying that NFT on a centralized platform. That's one of the most popular Web3 platforms right now. So that's what we need to solve first, where you at least feel like you're on a Twitter or Instagram on the front end, and it's not super complicated. But I think overall, it's going to be kind of like bit by bit onboarding people towards more and more of that Web3 mentality. So if we start by asking your wallet address, or even worse, your seed phrase as the first onboarding step, as we've seen some of the earlier projects do in Web3, then most people will churn there because they have no idea what you're talking about. And if they do, they're definitely going to not give you their seed phrase. So it's a very small part of ready but gullible people that you're going to be onboarding. So just kind of making it feel natural. And we actually found, like, when it comes to the creators and sort of the audience, we found kind of third niche in between those, the curators, where we saw that that was actually the kind of good starting point. So we have about like 60K users, around 12K daily actives right now on Phaver. And those 12K daily actives are actually creating more than 100,000 posts every week, just on the Phaver app side of things. Because a lot of them are curating kind of the coolest news articles, YouTube videos, tweets, other content from other platforms. And that's been kind of a good way to start getting kind of interesting content on the platform and curating it into different topics. Now that we have that kind of active amount of users, we're able to vote on content and kind of help surface the best one. Now it's a good time to start onboarding the more mainstream creators. We're in talks with one 10 million follower YouTuber from Turkey, for example, about onboarding on Lens and Phaver. And a lot of like Turkey has been a very big market for us with KOLs and creators, because they have like 10 million crypto wallets in the country. So it's already kind of a very natural market to onboard a lot of also mainstream creators.
Interesting.
But kind of that was an interesting part to start with. So otherwise you just have people waiting for content, or you have people waiting for an audience. And it's really hard to get both of them at the same time.
So I think the other big question on our mind, and Nilesh, if you have anything to add on that, I can let you jump in here. So we got the interoperability standards. We're building on top of that. That's Lens. Then we've got the users, which, as you mentioned, you guys are figuring out how to attract them. When the customers come, you guys still need to make money. There needs to be a business model here. Let's talk about that for a second. What's the business model for Orb and Phaver? Do you even know? You know, maybe you don't know yet. Maybe you're still trying to figure it out. I know that when we first talked to Lens, and Kyle mentioned this earlier in the episode, they still weren't sure what their business model was. But curious if you guys are willing to give us a little peek behind the closed doors of how you guys are thinking about the business model. Nilesh, you can go first.
I guess, Joonatan, you can start. My AirPods got disconnected. I'm trying to reconnect them.
Okay, yeah, good diversion. So yeah, kind of on the Phaver side, as I kind of touched upon the advertising model previously. So that's going to be, I think, one of the core parts of it. So I think like somebody has to pay. That's just the reality. If you want to kind of make a successful business. And it's either purely about brands paying a very invasive monetization model like Facebook, where they track your GPS, and Google reads your Gmails, Facebook reads your WhatsApp conversations in order to data mine you to profile better ads. And that's the only way for you to talk to your friends online right now. So it shouldn't be the only way, but there's always the people who prefer to have a free option. And there's people who prefer to be paid for their content, and they rather be paid more than less. So we think bringing the brands into that conversation through the token advertising model can be a good solution. But at the same time, because the token model allows you to kind of do all kinds of sort of payments, we can also have the people who want to subscribe to premium content, like on Patreon or on Substack, kind of pay some tokens to subscribe to a certain stack of premium content. There's the native Lens collect features where you can collect people's posts as NFTs. And also, let's say you don't want to see any advertising, you can just elect to have the advertising free version for X tokens a month, or minting custom NFTs for reactions. So instead of just a sticker that everybody has, you can have a limited edition NFT reaction for your post, or a creator can kind of give those to their favorite fans or most passionate fans. So there's a lot of things that kind of have been working in Web 2, either in gaming or freemium apps or social apps. And kind of, if you build a well-functioning token model, you can actually bring all of those into it. A lot of it could, of course, also work without the tokens. But the cool part of tokens is that it's going to reward the early adopters. So if you were actually one of the first people on Facebook, you have the bragging rights and maybe a very short username. But if you were one of the first people in a Web3 social, then your tokens that you made early on are actually hopefully going to be worth something. So there's a big difference also if you build it through the tokens. And then we're, of course, hoping to take like a nice little cut from everything. So then we can get our Lambos someday.
That's what it's all about, right?
We don't want to be the only ones with the Lambo, so we're taking everybody with us. That's the plan.
Love it.
Everybody
Love
gets
it.
a Lambo.
You get a Lambo. You get a Lambo.
And you're not going to take, you see, like, as you said there, the key, you're hoping to take a little cut, not a 100% cut that Facebook currently takes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're happy with that 1 billion even instead of the 89 billion, because it's still a lot.
Right.
And a lot of people will be rewarded with that.
Nilesh, what about you? What are you thinking of there?
Yeah, so at creator side, there is a already modules like on the top of the Lens, where is a collect fees. Already Joonatan mentioned that your creators can collect and they can get paid off of their content. At Orb side, what we are focusing is like we would be planning to monetize from the organization side. So as we are bringing both together, end users and we are also building the infrastructure for all the Web3 companies and all the organizations. So there we are trying to figure out some model where kind of for posting some opportunities and finding some talent. So from there we can make a money, and there's the one point. And the other point, it's like right now there is no solution if you want to do market your business to if you are playing in the Web3 industry and you want to reach out to other Web3 companies who are into it, and you want to sell some your services. There is no infrastructure there. So the Orb would be biggest infrastructure where all the Web3 companies are there, and we can monetize on top of that. If you want to do sales with the companies or want to reach out to somebody's, and then so we can have some minimal subscription model or anything. So there are a lot of opportunities to monetize over there. So yeah.
Very interesting. We're going to begin to wrap up here. And so Jay has some speed round questions for you. So he's going to ask some questions and we'll give you guys some quick answers, or you guys will give us some quick answers here. Before we do, though, I want to just let you guys take a second to just let people know how they can learn more about Orb and Phaver and where they can go. I know not everyone listening has a Lens profile handle or has access to your apps. We are going to do some form of giveaway at some point soon. It probably won't be at the drop of this podcast, as we just need to figure out some things because we don't want another 60,000 followers on Lens, but we do have some ideas. And so to the audience that's listening, stick around. Over the coming weeks, we will announce something probably on Twitter, in our newsletter, or again on the podcast. And we'll let you know how you can get in on these and you can access them all. But for now, if they want to just kind of learn or explore, or maybe there's something they can do even without a Lens handle, let them know what they can do. Joonatan, we'll let you start.
Yeah, sure. So the Phaver app is already available in the App Store and Play Store. You can download it anywhere in the world. The spelling is Phaver, because with an F, the .com domain was too expensive back in the day. And we didn't realize all the cool kids have XYZ domains. So it's just gone with an F. But a lot of 80s rap vibes now in the name. Anyway, you can download it. It still requires an invite code. If you don't have somebody's username, you can use, if you know how to spell my name, you can use Joonatan, or when you don't, use code earlybird, you can get in to Phaver. We are also, as I mentioned, running various Lens whitelist campaigns. We whitelisted thousands of users through kind of handpicking the quality profiles, but that doesn't really scale anymore. So now, if you have some of our kind of like first round of NFTs, if you connect, let's say, obviously your apes, but also a lot of cheaper ones, you can connect one of those into Phaver to verify that you're a real user. and then we can actually get you a Lens profile, or then you can verify your Twitter history soon with that new soulbound token method. So we're experimenting with a couple of new ways. There will be other more scalable options soon for Lens handles as well. But as you mentioned, it's super hard when like you give people an option and you think like, great, we'll get some high quality users. And then you get 59,000 scammers following you, and then 1,000 people who genuinely deserve it. And then you have to like hand come through those wallets somehow. So no good deed goes unpunished.
Thanks. Nilesh, feel free to give us a little bit of explanation there as well.
Yeah, so right now we are in the private beta. So the apps are available on App Store and Play Store. You can download it, but once you download it, you can sign up for the waitlist over there in the app itself. And then we are continuously doing, we are rolling out some invites to users. So I would say just go to our website. It's orb.ac and download the app, sign up for the waitlist, and also follow us on Twitter, because Twitter, and join our Discord. So we do all the announcement on Discord if we are opening access for more users, and we also handpicking the users from the Twitter. So the best way interact with our tweets, and so basically we want to know that it's genuine user or not. So we are handpicking from there as well.
It's really ironic that Web3 social companies are saying follow us on Twitter, and that's how we're going to verify it. That's the world we live in, so I get it, but it's just really funny.
Yeah, because we have a long way to go there.
Yeah, we're trying to throw a life raft at the poor people who are now being oppressed by Twitter. Yeah. We're actually thinking of doing a campaign called the SBTs, where if you've been shadow banned on Twitter, you get a soulbound token. That's reward for that, because those are the true Web3 heroes now. If you haven't been shadow banned by Twitter, you're not doing
it. Love it. Well, we appreciate both of you for saving social media for us, for the many that have been impacted by Facebook and Twitter and whoever else, and their centralized censorship ways that they like to live and lead. Jay, why don't you walk us through a bit of a quick speed round here?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to fire off some questions at you guys, and I'll let you each answer them. I'll probably have 3 or 4 questions for today. Let's start with you, Jonathan. What's an NFT or a fungible token? What's a token you'll never sell?
I got a Permi NFT for the permissionless conference, and that was a really cool one because it just gives you so much access to really great people in the Web3. So that's also the only one where I haven't gotten rugged. So that's a good memory for me. The only good NFT memory.
I want to make it clear, not everyone gets rugged in Web3 all the time. Jonathan's had a bad go of it, that's for sure. Nilesh, what about you?
My Lens and
Nice.
Lens and itself is an NFT.
Nice. Awesome. Who are you learning the most about Web3 from right now, whether it be a newsletter or a personality on Twitter or a creator on Lens? Who are you following that you feel is putting out great content and educating on Web3?
There's
Jonathan, you can start.
Yeah, a lot of good people on Twitter. It's just really hard to kind of find it through all the kind of bot messages. My favorite newsletter right now is called TLDR. They're really nicely summarizing kind of the Web3 updates every day. I have like 20 newsletters in my inbox. That's the only one I try to read. So that's a good tip for trying to kind of get the big news every day. And of course, Phaver is a great place to get everything.
Yeah. So for me, there are a lot of people, but so how I got into Web3 is like from a long time, I'm listening the podcast of Balaji. And this is how I mean how he describing and why we need the Web3 and all the things. He is producing kind of really good content, and he also launched one book, The Network State. Right now I'm also going through that. So that's the biggest, but there are many.
Yeah, pretty heavy book. He's a big thinker. Something you've purchased recently for under $100 that brings you joy. Does not have to be a digital asset or a digital product. Joonatan, you can go first.
That's a really good question. I tend to buy too expensive things. I'm actually right now quite happy of this like balance stool that I'm sitting on. That's why I've been rocking around, because I've been sitting in my armchair for the last 2 years with COVID. And now I finally decided to get a desk, and I got €100 kind of balance stool. And it seems to be actually a really good thing for like not breaking my back.
Nice.
Nice.
That's a good tip.
That is a good tip.
Yeah. For me, it's like from long time I've been working from the laptop only since I moved from the India, and recently I bought the keyboard and mouse and monitor, all the setup. So that's pretty good.
Game changer getting this set up. Yeah. Okay, this has been a fabulous episode. Thank you so much, Joonatan and Nilesh, for joining us and for sharing your vision and also the vision of Web3 Social, which I think we're all super excited about. We just need to get the users there, and it all starts with the builders. Can't get any users there if there isn't anything to do. So it starts with you guys. So thanks for all your work. We'll be sure to put in the show notes all the links to find you. And hopefully our listeners will be joining Orb and Phaver and getting involved in Web3 Social soon.
Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy. We hope this helps you along your Web3 journey. And if it does, please share this episode and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Nothing in this podcast was financial advice. Crypto and Web3 can be risky. You can literally lose it all. In fact, if you invest on account of what we say, you probably will lose it all. So don't do that. In all honesty, the point of this podcast is to remove the noise of markets and price and focus on utility and implementation anyway. So you should not take any of this as financial advice. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.